Okay. Da, da, da. Hi everyone. We are going live with the Aesthetics Doctor. I'm very excited.
Hello.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm great. Hang on, let me just turn you right up. Hello, Dr. Ahmed. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Can you hear me?
I can. I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear
Br
me?
Brilliantly. I've got a fan there because it's so warm, and I was
So
worried
have
that the
I.
fan. I was
I've got
worried
one
that
here
the
as well.
whoosh of the fan is gonna cause problems, but I'm glad we're
No,
good.
I can hear you perfectly.
Hi
Well, thank you
guys.
so much for coming. Hi, everyone. Happy you can join. So, if you guys don't know, I'm Kezia. I'm the new Deputy Editor of Aesthetic Medicine, and we are joined here with Dr. Ahmed El Muntazar. He's a GP, NHS frontline doctor, and celebrity practitioner. So, we're very lucky to have him here with us. I know, what an intro.
That
Um,
sounds so fancy. I was like, ooh,
well,
okay.
it's you, honey.
Oh, darling, okay.
Okay, so let's dive straight in because we've got quite a lot of interesting questions to ask you. So I'd love to get into it. So
Jump in.
firstly, what do you think of the current regulatory situation regarding non-surgical cosmetic procedures in the UK?
I think we are making progress. I think things are going somewhere. However, if you compare
Mm.
it, say, 2 or 3 years ago, there were almost completely no regulations whatsoever. I mean, at the
Oh,
time, under 18s were still able to get injectables. I mean, as a doctor, I was getting messages every week from people that are under the age of 18 being, as I got my nails done, can I get lip filler? And that is
hmm.
ludicrous, really. But thankfully, that at the end of last year became illegal finally, and the government is trying to make some legislative changes to actually make the aesthetics industry a bit more regulated. So there's a lot of
Hmm.
talks at the moment about introducing a licensing system. This is still a little
Hmm.
bit vague, to be honest with you. We're still not sure what this involves, but apparently by mid next year there should be some concrete legislation and licensing to actually help regulate the industry. So fingers
Absolutely. And
crossed.
yes, fingers crossed. It seems like it definitely needs it, especially as you mentioned, the thing about the 18-year-olds. There's some stuff that I want to get in around that a bit later on in the conversation.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so this is probably quite an obvious question, but why, is there any other reasons why you think further regulation is needed?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure myself and a lot of colleagues out there have seen it over, the last few years. So many botched work
Mm.
happening out there. Oh, thank you so much. I just saw that little comment down there.
I didn't even see it. I'm too focused on you. I need to have a look at this.
Because I'm at the bottom of the screen, so I can read the little comments as they're coming up my eyes. I can just see them. So with what's happening over the last few years, we've been coming across so many situations of individuals going to, non-regulated individuals like beauticians and so on, getting extremely bad work done that
Mm.
leads to complications. I mean, just if you've got a few minutes, it's a personal story that I came across during the pandemic. This
Yeah, go
lady in
for
her
it.
50s, that her husband unfortunately left her during lockdown, and she was feeling really down about herself. So she thought
Mm.
she will make herself feel better by sorting a problem that she's had for years, which is hollow under eyes. She found
Mm.
a gentleman over on Facebook Marketplace. I mean, that in itself is
Yeah.
crazy. She went to his kitchen and she got tear trough filler done, 80 quid cash in hand. She messages me 6 to 12 hours later. Hey, I'm so sorry, you don't know who I am, but this has happened to me. My vision is a bit blurry in my right eye. Is this normal? And for some reason, I
Mm.
opened that message and just read through it, and I was like, holy, this is a vascular occlusion. And
Oh
actually,
my
the
gosh.
practitioner that did the treatment was a non-medic. He did not know. He was telling her, babes, that's just some swelling.
Mm.
So in the
Wow.
middle of the pandemic, we had to open the clinic up north for her to come in, dissolve everything, IV antibiotics. She actually ended up in hospital. But that just highlights how unregulated things are. And ultimately, because he's not a medical professional, so there's no particular kind of defense body she can go to, like the GMC or the nursing
Yeah,
council and so on. He's uninsured, cash in hand. She had nowhere to go.
that's insane. And am I right in saying that another part of the problem with non-medics doing this kind of work is that you need a prescription to provide like the antidote essentially to remove the filler or to solve the problem?
Yeah, so essentially, filler is made from hyaluronic acid. So think of my hands are hyaluronic
Mm,
acid molecules. They're just binded together. So what hyaluronidase or the enzyme does, it goes in and it breaks that bond. So the filler bonds just break and you can just separate it so it doesn't block any blood vessels or nerves and
I
so on.
see.
And this is how we reverse any emergencies. So that antidote is prescription. So you sometimes wonder, will that non-medic have the antidote? Probably not.
Mm. And even then, they're not licensed to be able to use it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they wouldn't even know how to. If you think
No.
about it, like, the physicality of taking a vial, breaking the top, inserting a needle, drawing it up, mixing it with saline, actually takes a lot of,
Training.
a training, like being able to break a vial without breaking your thumb
Yeah,
in
yeah.
itself is magic.
Yeah. You need to go to school for that.
I mean,
But
8 years
yeah,
of med school
okay.
later, I'm like, whew,
Can open a vial.
yeah, thank you, nailed it.
Oh my God. So then, so a bit of good news that we had recently was
Mhm.
that Parliament released, earlier this month, Parliament released the Impact of Body Image on Mental Health and Physical Health report. What did
Yeah.
you think of the report?
I think the report was fantastic. It was such a great start to actually demonstrate the massive impact that, the images and the social media and all the things that we see out there have on people's mental health. Because ultimately,
Yeah.
the new generation or Gen Z coming up now, they don't know a world that doesn't involve Instagram and TikTok and so on. So seeing all these things really impacts their mental health. And I think
Yeah.
there's definitely a palpable change on what patients come in and ask for. Because actually,
Hmm.
before people will come in and ask for Angelina Jolie's lips or X, Y,
Hmm.
and Z's nose, whereas now people come in with an edited photo of themselves and ask for that. And that, in a way, makes you wonder, is that how you
Yeah.
actually see yourself? Because that's not you.
That, well, like, I think I read an article, I can't remember where it was, but it was about Instagram face, and it was about
Mm.
like all of these filters and how everyone's faces have kind of like your Instagram feed is just a feed of like a similar proportion face. And then
Yeah.
people are actually going to doctors and asking for this Instagram face, like as you said, and it's not reality, it's just
No.
it's a very strange situation to be in. And I think down the line, this is getting further down into my questions, but down the line, I think there is going to perhaps need to be some more regulation around how people post on social media, especially in this industry.
100%.
Um,
I mean, we'll get down to that in a bit,
we
but I have a
will.
lot
I'm
to
so
say.
excited for that part. Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. I'm going to let you talk because you're the one I'm interviewing. Um, so, so why do you think filler should become prescription only, as with botulinum toxin?
Yeah, so botulinum toxin or Botox is prescription only medication, which basically means for you to get it from pharmacy, you need to write a prescription for it. I'm of the firm belief that derma fillers needs to be prescription as well. Because
Mhm.
actually, most of the serious complications I have seen personally have been from derma fillers. Because with
Yeah.
Botox and so on, yes, it can cause complications. But actually, a lot of them is reversible with time. Things will
Hmm.
reverse. They might look
Yeah.
aesthetically odd. However, with derma fillers, those complications are really what causes damage. Things like vascular occlusion could lead to skin necrosis, blindness, and kind of
Hmm.
permanent damage in someone's face. So the fact that you can get filler from eBay, that's kind of ludicrous. That's kind of crazy. So you can go on
Yeah.
eBay, buy a new rug, buy a fan, and buy some filler. Yeah, like
In the basket.
in the
Yeah,
basket. Like, thank you, next. What?
it is. Yeah, it is definitely insane, especially considering that it is an injectable. Like, even I've learned recently that tattooists all need a license to be able to perform a tattoo. So if you're actually injecting a substance into someone's face, then surely you would need to be regulated for that as well. I think, yeah, I think that definitely makes a lot of sense.
It's
And
kind of
then,
like crazy. I mean, so I'm from Libya originally, which is in North
mm,
Africa, and unfortunately, Libya is one of those third world countries. And kind of growing up, I have seen cosmetic clinics, in my hometown of Tripoli. I remember always
mm,
seeing only doctors being able to perform treatments. And to me, it sounds kind of crazy that in countries that are proper third world, they have regulations and actual laws against
mm,
these things. And in the UK, well, arguably one of the most developed countries in the world, there
yeah,
aren't any regulations. That to me, what?
yeah. If you put it into perspective, definitely that does seem very strange. That here in the UK, where we've got the NHS and we've got all of these standards and laws and everything, and
Mhm.
it's still the situation is kind of like the Wild West, I would say. So,
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, in so many places. I remember, I mean, a funny story. My sister, when she moved from Libya to the UK, she was getting her nails done. And her nail tech asked
Mm.
her, do you want to get some Botox? And she truly thought that nail tech was joking. And then she
Wow.
called me in a panic. Where have I moved to? Where am I?
Quick, get me out of here.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, yeah, I think it would be surprising if you come from somewhere that had those standards and then come to a place like the UK with all of our standards and to
Yeah,
find that. So, yeah, very
absolutely.
interesting point. And then how do you feel about the proposed licensing scheme? Because I know that tends to polarize the industry quite a bit. If you could explain to me why, that would be really interesting. Yeah,
I think with the licensing scheme, it's just a little bit vague at the moment. We're not really sure
yeah,
what it fully involves. I mean, I've read the documents out there, but it's still got a lot of scope for interpretation and for misunderstanding and
mm,
so on. So we've not got that clear, what are the guidelines. I think when it comes to change is scary. Uncertainty is scary in itself.
yeah,
So I think no wonder for a lot of the experienced doctors and nurses out there that have been, in the industry for decades, any change in that way that might involve them needing licenses or changes in their registrations and so on might cause a bit of uncertainty. So I understand where a lot of that doubt comes from. But I do
yeah,
think in the long run, any progress causes fear sometimes. And I do
yes,
think for things to move forward, we need to shake things up a little bit.
absolutely. Yeah, and it's one of the reasons why some people are a little bit annoyed with the proposal of the licensing scheme is that it could perhaps allow non-medics to then get licensed, basically.
Potentially, because obviously we don't
Mm,
know what are the requirements and the guidelines for someone to get a license yet. We've not got that clear, you need to be X, Y, and Z to get a license. It's just been a
hmm
proposed, I understand that I think it was March this year. They said they're
hmm
going to be accumulating data over 18 to 24-month period that are kind of summative of all the different treatments, all the different things that we offer in the industry to be able to come up with these kind of regulations. So
hmm
actually, at this moment in time, we don't know what these regulations involve or this licensing involves yet.
Yeah,
So it's difficult to kind of speculate
yeah,
what it's going to be in a few months' time.
got it. We'll keep a close eye on that. Um, and then, how do you think the mental health epidemic has been exacerbated by the aesthetics industry in combination with social media and shows like Love Island?
I think it's had a huge impact, to be honest with
Mm.
you. I mean, it was social media. The second you're scrolling down your feed, you're just bombarded with photos of perfection all the
Yeah.
time. And I think that in itself is so unhealthy. Um,
Mm.
I mean, I don't know about you, but growing up and just seeing people in real life that were not perfect was very reassuring. It was very
Well,
reassuring in a way.
definitely. But at the same time, I feel like I'm 32, so when I was like going through my formative kind of teenage years, it was like the tabloid era where everyone was like snapping photos of Britney Spears with cellulite, and it was just a constant
Yeah,
bombardment of just kind of like abuse on people's bodies. It was like a really stressful time to grow up. And then, but now I think, yeah, like the young generation, if I have kids, I'm going to be very concerned about what they're seeing on Instagram. Like I'm genuinely getting tired of seeing pictures of so much perfection, and I think what
mm,
is perhaps going to become commodified is like individualistic look. But yeah, it's a lot, and as well, the stuff that we are seeing on our feed is not is not real perfection. You know, it's
no.
been edited and altered, and a lot of the time digitally. Which, yeah, it just messes us up and it makes us feel bad about ourselves, I think. And that's why
It's
I
a
think,
curated, yeah, it's curated reality, isn't it? It's essentially someone thinking, how should I present myself to the world? And kind of
mm,
changing their hair, makeup, tan, whatever it is, to fit that
yeah,
specific mold. I mean, social media's got a time and a place. I mean, it's the world that we live in completely. But I think we just need a bit more regulations when it comes to what is out there. Um,
yeah,
because I do think as time goes on, we're seeing a lot more people coming through the door with mental health issues. And I mean,
mm,
putting my GP hat on, for me, one of the things that I come across, or one of the models that we use is called ICE, which is ideas, concerns, and expectations. And this is
mm,
the kind of model to understand why is your patient there. So what's their
yeah,
ideas of beauty? What's their main concern? And what's their expectation at the end of your consultation or treatment? And by answering these three questions, you really get to the gist of why that patient is there. And actually,
yeah,
some patients get treatment done for the wrong reasons because someone would say, I want to get my under eyes done because actually I'm going to look like X, Y, and Z. That they're
yeah,
not getting it for the right reasons then. Whereas if someone's saying, well, actually, I've done my research, I am here for treatment because I've got hollow under eyes and I know I've done my research, I've done my homework, that patient is there for the right reason.
yeah. Would you say that in recent years, or like especially around the times of the pandemic and stuff, are you coming across patients that are coming in and you're recognizing signs of body dysmorphia in them a lot more, or?
I don't think particularly after the pandemic, but I think it's something that's been happening for many, many years. And this is why one
Yeah.
of the things my clinic manager does not like it probably, but one of the things that I do, I actually let go of a lot of patients. When patients
Mm,
come in, if I'm not 100% satisfied that that patient is there for the right reason, I'm like, you do you. We're not getting a
mm,
treatment done today because actually you're not
yeah.
here for that right reason. And I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of power in saying no to a patient sometimes because actually, A, it clears your conscience, but actually, you're probably doing them a lot of good in the long run because they're not there for the
Yeah.
right reason for that treatment.
And it might get them to reconsider why they
Yeah,
are looking to go down that route. Um,
absolutely.
on the topic of Love Island, something that I watched it not up until the end. I stopped watching it like the last week before it finished. Stupidly, I spent all that time and effort
Yeah.
watching it, and then I just did. The last week I got tired of it and I just stopped watching it. But anyway, um, anyway, I read an article. It was on Grazia magazine, but still, it was a great article,
Love.
and it was about Love Island and the increase of people wanting to have procedures. And
Hmm.
a study conducted by the Safety and Beauty Campaign last year found that 87% of girls 15 to 18 want to get cosmetic treatments after watching Love Island. And then another like tangent to that is that up until 2018, in between, you know, the adverts in between like every 15
Hmm.
minutes of the show, there was a plastic surgery cosmetics company was the advertiser, and that was up until like 2018. Which when I saw that, I couldn't believe it, and I was shocked, but
Wild.
not crazy shocked because I actually think I remember seeing it years and years ago and noticing that, thinking, That's kind of weird. And now after watching the show, I'm thinking like, what do I want to do to myself? But yeah, how do you think kind of the wider media, celebrity, um, the publishing industry, what do you think, how do you think they have a responsibility to young people when it comes to these kind of things and a show that kind of promotes that kind of aesthetic? What do you think about
I think it's a bit of a tough one, really,
that?
because essentially you've got that side of, yes, they're watched by a lot of young people out there. They're very impressionable. They're easy to push towards getting treatments. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, a lot of contestants want to get treatments done. So kind of focusing on the contestants specifically, because I've worked with a few of the Love Island girls in the
Mm,
past, but it's usually after the Love Island, after they've left the island, they come to
mm,
my clinic for dissolving and things to be naturalized and normalized again. Because a lot of
mm.
these young girls, particularly for example last year, I don't know if you remember AJ, she was one of the contestants that joined later on. So she's of Asian
Okay.
background, and she felt a lot of pressure to look
Mm,
more Caucasian on camera, surprisingly.
yeah.
And for her, she felt that there's a lot of pressure that she needs to get these treatments done before the Love Island going on to actually look a certain way.
Mm,
But actually on camera, it didn't look good because it just did not
yeah.
suit her facial structure and so on. And actually, she ended up
Yeah.
coming to my clinic after for complete dissolving and just
Wow.
naturalization of what
Mm,
she had done before. And we had a
mm.
long conversation about this, and it did seem like it was the norm. Oh, you can't go on one of those shows without looking a
Without.
certain way because there's a look. And I
Yeah.
think actually by addressing why is there a look, that would really solve probably a lot of problems. But I think the show is starting to make some positive changes because they had a disabled individual before. I
Hmm.
understand. I don't know if that individual went far in the competition or not because I don't watch it,
Yeah.
to be honest with you.
Well done. But yeah, I did watch it. Smash out.
I
So you should be
mean,
very
some
pleased
of
with
us
yourself.
have got more important things to do.
You
The
know, you
shade
are a
is coming in
doctor.
thick. The shade is
Give it
coming
to
in thick.
me. No, I was like, all my friends were taking the mick out of me for watching it this year because I used to be so kind of like anti. But it makes you think. It kind of made me think a lot about a lot of wider issues, like this
Mm.
particular issue we're discussing now. So not a complete waste of time.
Of course, homework, darling, homework.
Exactly.
It's a
So,
guilty pleasure. A lot of people watch the show.
right, and that's why I think it's kind of crazy that these things can have such an impact. And something that I have noticed a little bit on Instagram as well is aesthetic doctors saying things like, so and so got it, come in for like, and they use the term like Love Island package, which essentially I would see as kind of advertising. Do you know what I mean? What do you think of
Yeah.
that?
Oh, sorry, I just
Yeah.
read the comment in the bottom there. I was like, someone's
Did you
coming in
say?
interesting. Sounds
Oh,
like
okay.
reply to my comments. I was like, oh, oh.
You've got a fan.
I was like, I'm so sorry. I think generally the concept of packages doesn't sit too well with me, to be honest with you, because I
Mm,
think that implies that everyone will need the same treatments and would want to
yeah.
look the same, and there's no
Yeah.
particular artistry or personalization of your treatments. I mean, one of the
Mm,
most common ones is the Kim K package. I see this all the time. The Kylie Jenner package.
mm.
What? What does that mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
do you see what
It's
I mean?
insane. No,
I think that in
totally.
itself is so problematic because A, you're implying that that individual needs to look like someone else. B,
Mm,
you're telling them you will need at least that number of mils to look a certain way. I
yeah.
think that's just crazy, really. And this is why I think it's very important to bring your patient in, have that consultation, and then come up with a treatment plan. Because ultimately, it's called aesthetic medicine. It's medicine. It
Yeah.
needs to be a treatment plan.
Hmm. And obviously tailored to that individual
Yeah.
as well, not just kind of like, here's Kim Kardashian's face, honey.
Yeah. It's like, Right. Right.
And then on the topic of Kim, do you think that huge celebrities like the Kardashians should be more open about work that they've had done, and why? Because obviously I've actually seen recently, since starting this role, and just flipping through the feed of
Hmm.
the through our feed, a lot of people have been criticizing Kim for saying that she's never had this done, never had a nose job, never had a bum done, never had anything done, basically, is
Yeah.
Kim's standpoint on like most things. I think most of us could say, I don't believe you. And then obviously Kylie Jenner, when she got her lips done, she tried to say that she didn't have her lips done.
Puberty.
Yeah, they just grew overnight. Yeah, I don't think that happens, but yeah. Do you think that
Yeah.
they have a responsibility though to be a little bit more open, like because they've got such a huge platform, they've got such a huge following, they are very influential,
Hmm.
they're on the cover of Vogue all the time, is it right for people to just think or believe or for them to say that they've never edited themselves surgically?
Yeah. I do think yes, they've got a responsibility, but at the same time, they're in a very difficult place. So if you
Yeah.
think about it from both sides, they've got such a huge platform. They're followed probably by predominantly female, young female population.
Mm,
So actually, a lot of these young women are very impressionable to get certain treatments and so on. So actually, being that role model is very, very important in telling them, you should love yourself, you don't need treatments. But on the flip side, did those celebrities sign up to be a role model and actually be so holier than thou, and
yeah,
actually be expected to just be perfect all the time without getting anything done? And actually, in
yeah,
the media, these female celebrities are so critiqued all the time that they're in a bit of a difficult place. And
absolutely.
I've had conversations over the years with a lot of celebrities, mainstream celebrities that come through my clinic for treatments. And I'll ask them about, have you ever publicly talked about getting X, Y, and Z? Because obviously I'm doing the treatment, so I know they're having it done. And
Yeah.
actually, they feel so uncomfortable talking about it publicly because they
Mm,
know the second they do, they're going to be and the front page of all the tabloids,
yeah.
fake, this, that, and the other. They're not loving themselves. We knew they weren't real the whole time. So there's that kind of catch-22 of like wanting to be perfect all the time, but actually not. It's not okay for them to get treatments because they are not natural at that stage. But how do you
Yeah.
expect people to be perfect all the time without getting any treatments done sometimes?
I think, yeah, and I guess it is very important to remember that they are human too, even if
Yeah,
they're a celebrity, and they probably suffer under the same kind of insecurities that we do, but maybe even more magnified. Um,
100%.
so yeah, it must be extremely, extremely difficult. But then I think a lot of the issue is probably the way the media focuses on women and women's bodies, especially.
Hmm.
That, if we could maybe solve that a little bit more, then maybe people would be more open and less ashamed to share about the work that they've had done, and then that might have a knock-on effect on, people feeling bad about themselves, which,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think we've got a long way to go.
But I think at
Um,
this stage, we should just expect that every photo that you see on social media is edited to some degree. I mean,
in
if
some
you think about
way,
15 to 20 years, or maybe even 10 to 15 years ago, any photo that you see in a magazine has been edited,
yeah,
essentially at
absolutely,
that stage. And it's the same with social media. Every photo
yeah,
out there has probably been touched in some way
in some
to
way.
to actually make it perfect. So actually, I think people should just understand that what you see on these platforms is just not true.
Do you think that people are capable of making that differentiation? So I think what the parliamentary report has said is that they want to push for kind of like a label or a logo
Hmm.
on images that have been doctored digitally. Do you think that's gonna kind of like help us solve the problems? Like I was talking to one of my best friends about it, who's a like fashion photographer, and we were discussing about how that would work. Because obviously, as you said, every magazine, like you open a magazine, every picture is
Yeah,
edited without a doubt. So
100%.
it is something that we should, know
Expect
is
it's a part of
happening.
it.
But then like with Instagram kind of like merging into like with individual people almost having to present themselves with an own personal brand essentially as a celebrity would, the way that we're interacting with social media, the way that we're posting ourselves online is it's just different. And I think maybe that's why online, do you think there could maybe be a case for some kind of logo or label to say this image has been edited, by the way?
100%. I think this has been implemented in certain countries in Scandinavia, I understand. And actually, I think it's definitely a step forward to make young people understand that a lot of the photos that they see on social media is edited, it's retouch. I mean, just playing around with the light could make such a difference. But with people having apps like Facetune, right there on their phone, it's just so easy to let's take away the pause. Let's smooth out this. Let's sharpen that. So actually, any photo that you see, just assume that it has been retouched. But I do think having that stamp of like, yes, this photo has been retouched is probably this next step to just regulate social media a little bit. Because it is a little bit wild that people don't disclose any of the changes that they do to their photos.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at my questions, and I feel like I've asked everything that I wanted to ask. I'm like bang on half an hour. My last question was, how do you ensure that your patients are mentally healthy when they come in for a consultation? You've already told me the ICE.
Yes.
Can you say that again?
Do you remember what it stands for? Pop quiz. Pop quiz.
Wait.
Okay.
Yeah, you tell me, please.
I can just see that in your eyes. You're like, abortion. Essentially, I stands for ideas, concerns, and expectations. And it's one of the GP models that we use to really understand why is that patient there. And actually, it started off in general practice from that patient coming in and be like, oh, doctor, I came in for a cough. And you go through it, but if you don't ask why they're there, oh, whilst I'm here, I actually found a lump in my breast. You know what I mean? They kind of come in for one thing, but actually in the back of their mind, they came in for a different reason. And it's similar with, oh, I just want to get my lips done. Why do you really want to get them done? Oh, I think, my relationship is going to get better. I'm going to get the job. But that actually, understanding why, why is the individual there, makes you able to filter through the ones that are getting the treatments for the right reasons and the ones that are getting it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'll remember that now. Was
next
there
week,
anything?
Another pop quiz.
Yes, this time next week on the red sofa, another pop quiz. Was there anything that I haven't asked that you think is important to mention around the chat, around regulation, social media, and mental health?
I think we've covered most things. We kept the conversation lighthearted, which sometimes it needs to be. I think this is a bit of a fluid field in the aesthetics world because things are changing constantly. But I think we're heading towards the right direction. It might be a bit of a slow movement, but we are heading in the right direction. So, guys, thank you so much for listening. It's been such an amazing Instagram Live.
Yes, I've loved it, and it's going to be on our feed after this. I've just got to figure out how to do that because I don't do Instagram lives very often, but I'll be doing a lot more. Well, thank you so much, and I hope I get to meet you in person soon, maybe at AM North in September.
Ooh, we'll chat, maybe.
Yes, definitely. Okay.
Thank you so much,
it was
guys.
lovely to speak to you. Bye.
Bye.